Let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it. He did it. Left with Dwight. Beavers, he's gone. Touchdown. Tavon Austin. As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
They want to have a 7-on-7 drill. We want to make it a fist fight. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football.
From the heart. Streaming. It's Mountaineer pride. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
West Virginia is a special place. People are the state that have great pride in this WV logo.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast channel, May 8th edition. Wanted to do this last night, didn't get a chance to. You guys know I'll put the tweet out there on social media. If you're not following us there, follow us at WVU Country Roads on X/Twitter. After West Virginia had gotten a couple of commits, my previous basketball live stream, I talked about the visitor there that we were hoping to get good news about. That came, and football also had a nice visitor I'd put out on social media, a big, tall, tight end target. Commitment came there as well. So I wanted to put out a video, about both those, but I figured, hey, why not just do another live stream? And I said, hopefully I'd do it last night or early this morning. As you can see, it was the latter. Here I am early this morning with another, CRW in the morning stream here, May 8th, going to talk about some roster moves for both sports. So when I do these early in the morning, the engagement's kind of less live, but you guys do a great job watching the playback at least. So I appreciate that either way, but do want to encourage people, just in case you are in here live, drop any questions, comments, concerns you have in the chat there. I'll try and address those before I wrap up. We'll keep it pretty brief. I got to go to work here before too long, but do got a couple of commits to talk about and some other little news stories and cool little videos I want to share with you guys. One in regards to the new black West Virginia Coal Rush uniforms. They put out a cool video about the design process. I know I shared the video of the design process of the last uniforms. That was really cool. The media team does a great job. I want to share that. But before we get there, let's talk about these commits. Let's lead it off with the basketball side. Then we'll transition over to football. I mentioned on the last basketball live stream, I talked about Jonathan Powell, a recruit visiting. He had previously been committed to an Xavier, top 100 recruit in the country, 4-star guy. Shared his ESPN profile and his 247 sports profile in the previous live stream. Extremely highly regarded combo guard, 6'6" guy. He was on campus that day. I was doing the live stream, so we were hoping for some good news. It came, I think, either late that night or the next day, but he did indeed commit and has since actually already signed his national letter of intent, and we got the official press release from WVU, so that's what I'm going to pull up now, and we'll lead this off with the basketball commitment news. Jonathan Powell joining the basketball roster as he joins KJ Tenner as the only two high school additions thus far for West Virginia on that roster. We know they're having to pretty much build an entire roster from scratch. They have two high school players that will be joining that roster, KJ Tenner and now Jonathan Powell, that will join the other transfers that we've talked about in previous live streams here on the CRW and previous videos as well. DeVries adds Jonathan Powell to the 2024-2025 roster by Brian Messerly yesterday. WVU men's basketball coach Darren DeVries has announced the signing of Jonathan Powell to a national letter of intent for the 2024-2025 season. Powell, a 6'6", 180-pound guard from Dayton, Ohio, attended Centerville High School, will be a freshman. He was named the Division I Ohio High School Basketball Coaches Association Player of the Year. He averages nearly 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists per game last season. They finished 20-9, scored 17 against Cleveland State in the Division I state championship game, where he shot 50% from the field nearly and nearly 40% from three-point range for the season. So good shooter as well. We're pumped to have Jonathan joining us. Coach DeVries says he has a terrific size and skill, which gives him great versatility at both ends of the floor. He's very self-motivated and has a passion and desire to be great. He was a 2022-2023 first-team All-Ohio selection in D1 after scoring 17 points to go with 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and nearly 2 steals as a junior. And he also shot nearly 50% and 41% from 3 his junior year. So no fluke. His senior year has been a great shooter throughout his career, as you can see there. Before those 2 years, he was at Chaminade Julienne, and he still averaged 16 points, nearly 17 points as a sophomore. And even as a freshman was a double-digit scorer with 13 points per game there as well. So good addition for West Virginia. And I think make no mistake about it here with Jonathan Powell, despite him being a freshman, he's someone who will contribute this year, can play right away. He's that talented, that impressive of an addition, and it's very exciting to see West Virginia adding these guards now. Hopefully they're going to add some more big men. I think we're probably about halfway home on the roster now. I think there's 7, 8 players, so you're probably looking to add 5, 6 more to fill out that roster. But doing a good job with a lot of the additions. A lot of people were worried early on, but it's not exactly been in a rush. But great things take time, right? And they've done a great job adding very impressive pieces for the most part, I'll say, especially when you're talking about the high school guys. I like both of their ceiling. I think it's very high. Both of those guards that they brought in, KJ Tanner and Jonathan Powell. But then when you look at the transfer additions, you got some of the best defensive players in the portal in Sincere Harris and Toby Oconee. And then you also got 2 of the best players in the portal overall. Tucker DeVries was ranked number 1 in the portal the brief time we saw him there. And then Javon Small was the number 1 point guard in the entire transfer portal. So Coach DeVries and his staff doing a great job building that roster. Hopefully that continues. And as they continue to add pieces to it, we'll continue to cover it here on the CRW. But that's pretty much all I had basketball-wise. But they're not the only one adding top players at their position in the portal. West Virginia football doing the same, adding a number 1 tight end out of the JUCO ranks. He was the number 1 nationally ranked JUCO tight end, and that's Gregory Genross coming over to WVU now. He announced his commitment. Let me share this article from WVSN when they put this out. Like I said, he was visiting as well, and West Virginia got that commitment. Mike Asti putting this out a day ago. There you see the commitment graphic that he shared on social media. West Virginia gains the depth they're looking for as junior college tight end, announces his commitment. 6'7", 230-pound tight end. So we talked about that body type. West Virginia loving that. They've had it with Cole Taylor. They brought in Jack Samarco. They're going after, Jen Ross, the other recruit that they just brought in as well. Jackson Aquarty for the next class, same size, 6'7", around that same frame. So they found a body type that they like that can help, both catching passes and, of course, in the blocking game. But Jen Ross was a junior college tight end out of Dodge City Community College in Kansas. Perfectly fits the bill of a player looking to advance his game after a couple postseasons of high school football there at the JUCO ranks. I liked his quote here. He put in his commitment graphic, which if you guys want to follow him, it's at Jen Ross there on social media. A dream is worth nothing if you leave it on a pillow, and he's obviously achieving. He is now going to be playing D1 football and helping West Virginia a lot this year, I believe. They were looking, for that other pass-catching option, someone to complement Cole Taylor. Traylon Davis does great stuff in the run game, but he's trying to continue to develop the pass-catching side of his game. So, they wanted another lengthy target, as well. Traylon Davis, different body type. He's, 6'4", 6'3". And then these guys are, 6'7" now. You got twin towers, if you will. Jen Ross and Taylor out there. West Virginia is going to be in that 12 personnel. Who knows? They may even go 13, have those 3 tight ends out there at times. They have the personnel to do it now. I think they have 7 tight ends on the roster. But Jen Ross made 16 receptions for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns last year, 26 catches for 265 and 3 touchdowns in his 2 seasons at Dodge City. He chose West Virginia over offers from other programs as well. They were highly sought after. I think Colorado being one of those, if I'm not mistaken. So, West Virginia wins out, gets Jen Ross. But let's let his play do the talking a little bit here. I wanted to share a couple plays from his huddle. You guys can head over to Huddle, hopefully check out the full thing yourself. But let's take a look here at some of these plays. The first one here is really impressive. I think you're going to see him make an impressive catch. But just to, even get you more excited about this, I'll actually make it full screen here if I can. But the pass catching side is probably not even the strongest aspect of his game. Really, I think one of the main reasons West Virginia is bringing him in is not only his tall height and his ability to help in the pass catching game potentially, but he really helped a ton in Dodge City's run blocking game last season. Served as a lead blocker, lining up as an H-back type. West Virginia likes to use their tight ends, kind of mix them in as H-backs. They'll line up attached, they'll line up in the backfield. Cole Taylor will split out. I think Gregory Generals can split out, but you can also use him as a run blocker. And I think this really helps West Virginia now. You're not going to know which side the tight end is going to be blocking on. You're not going to know which tight end is going to be blocking the formation, which one's going out to catch a pass. And, just going to further help West Virginia's run game, continuing to add gaps and add lanes to that run game, the more tight ends they put on the field as well. Can't forget that with West Virginia's dynamic running backs, Jaheim White and C.J. Donaldson. So I think he'll help in that aspect. But you see him highlighted there. And let's take a look here. As you see this first play, this is an impressive grab. I think he shared this one on social media as well. That's kind of what made me want to look up the huddle, and luckily it was the first play. But you see right here, just going up, high pointing the football, coming down with it for the touchdown to secure that. That's an impressive grab. And like I said, here he is again in the back of the end zone. And you see at this Dodge City, when he was at this level, he really was able to utilize his height a lot, especially in the red zone situations. We saw West Virginia do that a lot with Cole Taylor last year. Now they'll have another weapon, for defenses to have to. They can't just key on Cole Taylor because West Virginia may have someone else to be able to throw it up to there as well. But like I said, the pass catching, not the only great side of his game, really great, blocking as well. A lot of his pass catching highlights you'd see here on this huddle tape, a lot of seam routes, a lot of deep outs, things like that. He seems to have soft hands. You see there's a deep out seam route before that. Was hoping it would show some of the blocking highlights here early because there are those aplenty as well. Like I said, he really was a big part of the run blocking game. You can look up even their running backs highlight tape from last season. I believe it's on Huddle as well, and you can see some more of Gregory Generos's blocking stats there. He's number 6, as you can see. But you can see, he can be utilized as a receiving weapon, as we're seeing through a lot of these highlights here, flats, seams, and deep outs and things. So definitely a good addition to West Virginia to add here to the roster. So the last thing I'm going to do in regards to these 2 roster pickups I wanted to note is I want to pull up our transfer portal tracker, of course, here on the CRW. I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with this if you've been following along here throughout the offseason. And we're going to add Gregory Generos here to our transfers in list now. He will help the Mountaineers this upcoming season for sure, coming over from Dodge City Community College. If I could spell Dodge right, that may help us out there. But so that's what I wanted to report on mainly was these transfer additions. We get Gregory Generos for the football side, Jonathan Powell for the basketball side, although that's not transfer, that's a high school edition. But either way, roster moves for both sports. Gregory Generos is one I'm excited about, and I don't think WVU football is done quite yet. I think this puts them right at 85 scholarships currently. Not thinking there's going to be any more movement out that we know of currently yet, but I do think they may try and still add another piece or two, and then you can try and work those in. There's different ways that you can manage that and still stay under that scholarship limit as well. So we'll see what happens. But I do think West Virginia probably still after a couple pieces. We know when we're talking targets, I've reported here previously a couple that they're after. I believe Trent Hudson from New Mexico State is supposed to be visiting. So, they're looking to still add that lengthy receiver. They like to have that 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" body type in that room. They don't really have that currently. Trent Hudson would fit that bill. And then we know they've also offered Kadarius Kelly, a defensive back from Lenore Ryan. So those seems to be 2 positions that they're after. And I would not be surprised to see him go after a defensive lineman as well with, some of the injuries they've suffered there, Corey McIntyre, et cetera. So I think you're maybe looking at maybe 3 more additions max, I would think, but I think they will still try and add a couple more transfer pieces. But the latest here, Greg Generos, I think will help a ton. So that's what I had there as far as roster pieces. Do see we got a few people in here. Appreciate that. Wasn't expecting that much engagement here coming early this morning, so appreciate you guys tuning in and chiming in here. And if you are in here, drop your questions, comments, concerns in the chat, and we'll touch on a couple of them here. Then I want to share that video I was talking about, and then I'll get ready to wrap up before too much longer. So if you got any other questions, comments you want to get in, drop them in there. But if you're on here live or if you're watching on the playback, really help me a ton if you just hit that little thumbs up button. Giving this video a like helps a ton with that YouTube algorithm. And if you're a WVU football or basketball fan, be sure to subscribe here. Ton of West Virginia content coming at the CRW. If you didn't get a chance to tune in this live and you are watching it after the fact on a playback, hey, throw your thoughts in the comments. Appreciate those interactions as well. But I see WVU Mountaineer with Kenny in here. What's going on, Kenny? Good to see you in here. Doing good, man. Hope you are as well. Do we have any more wide receivers? Just the Trent Hudson one that New Mexico State right now is the only one I've seen us currently after. I think that hopefully getting him on a visit, maybe they're expecting to get some good news there. We'll see what happens, but I know that that's kind of what they were after, was a big body receiver. Hey, Eric, appreciate you, man. Hey, late's okay too. You can always scroll back, watch what you missed on the playback or whatever. Appreciate you picking up from this point, man. As always, Eric, loyal to tune in and chime in. But a couple more things I wanted to share is I just wanted to share as far as the basketball side. We've talked a ton about the targets that they're after. There's a ton of names, long list. I won't go through the whole list again, but you can just add another one to it in Caden Cooper, Oklahoma transfer guard, 6'5", former 4-star recruit. You see, he appeared in 15 games last year, so 3 years of eligibility remaining. I know a lot of people have been wanting to see us add some guys with multiple years since lately a lot of the few guys we've been adding have had single year left, save for some of the Illinois guys and, of course, the high school recruits. But I think they're doing a good job of mixing both in. But this would be a multi-year guy you see from Ethan Bach over on WVSN. So he's had a lot of people reach out to him, Alabama, UConn, Gonzaga, Kansas, Texas, UCLA. That's people that were out of him after high school, so I'm sure he's still going to be highly sought after now as a transfer. And we know West Virginia has a ton of players that they're after. I'll go ahead and pull up this list one more time. Like I said, I won't read through the entire list because, I've done it on previous streams. You guys probably following along, but if not, WVSN doing a great job. There you see the names of players West Virginia has contacted. We know after getting the commitment from Jonathan Powell from the high school ranks, still looking to add some transfers here. Those are some of the players they've contacted, and of course, add those names to the list. And there are the transfers in to this point, with Javon Small being the latest. Check out my previous basketball stream for more thoughts on Javon Small. But other than that, last two things I want to touch on, football related. Like I said, you guys throw your thoughts there in the comments one more time. I want to encourage that before I wrap up. I'll try and touch on those one more time here. But the black uniforms, polarizing one way or the other. I was a big fan. I think they went over pretty well than I think a lot of people would expect it. I think some of the people that were naysayers even bought in. Some of the people were still harsh and, critical. You knew that was going to come. But nonetheless, I think they really put a lot of effort into the design and into, honoring the coal miners, which was really cool. And, one of the details that I think went hidden there was the fact that they're releasing the fan merchandise line as well with that West Virginia Mine Built on Bravery logo, all black merchandise to match the team. I'm sure that will be for the benefit of when they do the coal rush, so the crowd can wear all black as well. But you guys know we've got the whole new uniform set. I've talked about it a ton here on the channel, and on a previous live stream, I shared the video when they were talking about the design process. Thought that was really cool. They dropped another one now for the Coal Rush uniforms, talking about their design process. So let's take a look here. This is a really cool video. Great job by the WVU media team. About 4 minutes long. Then I'll be back with you guys. Got one more thing I want to touch on, and I'll touch on any of your guys' comments, and we'll wrap this thing up here on this May 8th CRW live stream.
When Matt told me we got to go ahead to do black uniforms, he also said go ahead and explore a coal team, which, to be honest, was a little bit intimidating to me. I grew up in West Virginia. My grandfather's a coal miner. I went to school with coal miners' sons and daughters. My dad's in the energy industry. I truly wanted to make it as much about, if not more about, the individual than the industry. We went and we toured Lear Mine. When Matt said we were going to do this, that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to do. Is I wanted to go shake hands and look in these people's eyes and meet them and have conversations with them. And one of the things that struck me was their deep sense of duty to one another, to bring each other above ground at the end of the shift. My intention with these was to pay homage to those people.
We have talked about how we continue to build and grow as a department and grow our brand. We've talked about, what do we need to do to stay cool and stay relevant. Conversation has always circled around about, do you do a black uniform? The idea of how do we incorporate the state heritage of the coal industry in with our uniform. The West Virginia University and the coal industry have strong ties, right? And so would that make sense? So it was all part of a brainstorming process that our team undertook, engaging our football staff, Coach Brown primarily, engaging Ren Baker, and taking our ideas to them to see what they think, incorporating their feedback.
The men and women put this uniform on every day to go to work. One of the things that I found interesting was their use of reflection, you know, to navigate underground. If everything goes out, then you have your headlamp and you have a cord and you find this cord and you feel your way to these reflective pieces that show you whether you're going, you know, depending on the color, whether you're going the right way or the wrong way towards the exit. They had a really cool reflective twill available through Nike that we used on the numbers. And I went underground, I took a photo of a wall that had been sheared and actually made that, vectorized it, made it into the pattern. So what you see is from an actual underground mine in West Virginia, which is pretty cool. The helmets have a gradient that falls off from the front to the back to represent the headlamps. What I learned about coal mining is the black helmet is so important to the narrative because that means you're an experienced miner. If you get a black helmet, you're an experienced miner. On the sleeve, there's a kind of a two-tone pattern that represents the shear, which is like the main tool that they use to carve in a mountain. So a lot of little Easter eggs.
We wanted there to be a story behind it. We think the story is a very important piece of this, and this will be something that you'll see on the field for the next 4 or 5 years, really consistent with however long this new set of traditional uniforms are still what we're going with. So we wanted this to have a little bit of a longer runway as well, and that's where the story behind the university and the state and the heritage of the coal industry really made sense to tie into. Regardless of how the fashion trends evolve over the next 4 or 5 years while we're wearing these uniforms, the ode to the history that we incorporated into this uniform won't change, right? And that will hopefully make it be something that our fans will like initially when we unveil them, but continue to enjoy and appreciate through their lifespan.
All right, so there you have it. Really cool, really cool. As Kenny says here, loves the black uniforms, best ever in his opinion. Probably, I mean, you know, the country road uniforms rank up there too. But besides those, or at least right alongside those, definitely one of my favorite alternates in quite some time. And I think that that's a good thing to be able to say that because as you heard there in the video, they're planning on using these, you know, across multiple years, probably as long as we have this current set. This will be, you know, our alternate uniform that we're going to use occasionally. So that's pretty cool. And I think, you know, unveiling it with the coal rush the first time, who knows when they're going to do it. Hopefully we'll get to find that out in the near future. It would be really cool with, you know, the fans and involved in that and stuff as well. So yeah, one of my favorites too, Kenny. Charles Peterson, appreciate you, man, tuning in and chiming in here. He says, I cannot remember when West Virginia football recruited California, St. John Bosco, Mater Dei. Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of good players that come out of there for sure, especially highly regarded ones, but it's just honestly really hard to establish a cross-country pipeline, really. You know, West Virginia's been able to do a decent job, you know, recruiting some states that aren't really close to West Virginia. When you look at, you know, Florida and Georgia, they've been able to dip in there, you know, kind of since the 80s. But as far as, you know, going across country and having a California to West Virginia pipeline, I feel like it'd be really hard to do. I mean, if there's a good player and you're able to land him, awesome. Let's go after him. Let's go get him. But I think you also run the risk then of that really probably increases the chances of someone getting homesick if they're, you know, having such a culture shock of California to West Virginia. That's, you know, in the times that we have recruited someone, you know, across country, and it hasn't always worked. You know, the one that comes to my mind is on the basketball side, was Isaiah Cottrell, right? He was from, you know, Las Vegas, Nevada area, and that didn't end up working out, and he ended up, you know, back over that way playing for UNLV. So that's what you run the risk of. I think that's why you don't see it too much. I think you want to kind of stick with what you know and what you know, the pipelines you can establish, which for West Virginia, you know, this Neil Brown coaching staff has really done a great job kind of using the similar method to what Don Nehlen did. We all know the story about when Don Nehlen getting here, you know, drawing the radius around West Virginia, you know, 300-mile radius, and saying, you know, within these borderline states, there's a ton of players. So you recruit West Virginia, you lock down the top in-state talent. They've certainly done that, landing, you know, the top 1 or 2 or both, you know, high school recruits in the state since they've came, and then locking down the borderline states. They've done a great job of recruiting Ohio, Maryland, Pennsylvania, all of those places. So they've done a good job with that. You even look at this upcoming 2025 recruiting class, pretty much everyone except for the latest commit is all either a West Virginia recruit or a borderline state. So I think they're doing a good job following that. And then if you have, you know, really good players that you think you can get in Florida and Georgia, you go get them. And you've seen them been able to do that as well. Look at this past class going down to Florida stealing Day Farmer from UCF. He's going to be a really impressive addition. So I think they're doing a great job recruiting, and I understand why you'd want to get players from those schools out there in California because there's a lot of great talent there. But it's just hard to establish that cross-country pipeline, unfortunately, Charles. That's why you don't see it as much, I think, for sure. Eric says PSU game, then the Big 12 championship game for those unis. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm hoping, you started to hear some rumors go around about the Penn State game maybe moving from Saturday to Thursday. Is that to ensure so we can wear the Coal Rush uniforms? Because maybe they said, hey, if you guys play on Saturday, you're going to have to play at noon. And they're like, we can't break them out, but we would love to hit Penn State with the blackout since they hit us with the white out, hit them with the Coal Rush. So maybe that's why you're starting to hear some of those rumors come out. Because personally, I'm really hoping to see them for that Penn State game as well, Eric. But, if that game ends up being Saturday at noon, you're probably not going to see those till later in the season or, the first night game you get at Mountaineer Field. But we'll see what happens. I'm all for that, though, and hopefully we get to be in that Big 12 championship game and have a chance to wear it. Kenny says his dad was a coal miner. That's awesome, Kenny. So that's probably even more a reason why they're one of your favorites of all time, and I appreciate him for what he did and everything then because I know that's hard work and everything, so I'm sure that you really love those uniforms for that reason also, but definitely they look awesome too. Having said that, the last thing I want to share with you guys, appreciate everyone that came in here and tuned in and chimed in. Good reaction here for being an early morning stream, but wanted to cover the roster additions for WVU football and basketball. But lastly, just wanted to touch on this a little bit because I don't know if you guys have known this. I'm sure most of you probably do. But just in case you don't, for the upcoming football season, this is good information to know, right? Couple of rule changes coming down to college football that may look a little bit different for you for this season, obviously. Let me scroll down to where those are here. There's a couple of them. One of those is teams will be able to use coach-to-player communications via radio transmitters and helmet to an offensive and defensive player on the field. Those players will be identified by having a green dot on the back midline of their helmet. So we've seen West Virginia use this. Actually, they got to use it last year in the bowl game. And when I saw them kind of experimenting with it in the bowl game, you kind of figured it was probably coming not too far down the line. Of course, it gets approved for this upcoming season. West Virginia even used it, I think, the past couple spring football. So at least West Virginia kind of got ahead of the curve, familiar with the technology. As you see here, Brown said they've been experimenting with the communication systems for a while now. Coach Brown said during the spring game, we were really vanilla with it. We used it in the bowl game. We've used it the last two springs, so it's not necessarily new to us, but we're using a different company now. I think it's going to help the game. It's going to help defenses as well. People are kind of underestimating that, but it's really going to help the defenses. So interesting, he thinks it's going to help the defense more than the offenses. West Virginia's middle linebackers have been using the communication system, but Brown indicates that it still be determined who will use it in the fall. If you feel like a team really has your signals, it gives you some options on how to communicate. So won't be so many hand signals, be a lot of being able to call into plays directly to the quarterbacks, much like the NFL does. They've been using it since 1994, and NFL defenders have been using it since 2008. Another change is tablets will also be permitted this year on the sidelines to view in-game video only. The video can include the game broadcast feed and camera angles from the sideline and the end zone. Up to 18 active tablets for use in the coaching booth, sideline, and locker room will be permitted. They cannot be connected to projection devices and cannot include analytics, data, or data accessing capabilities. Of course, the NFL uses that. And then the last rule change, probably the most significant one, is the 2-minute warning. NFL, has used the 2-minute warning forever, as long as I can remember anyways. But college football is adopting a 2-minute warning method as a method of synchronizing end-of-game timing rules, according to Secretary Rules Editor Steve Shaw. It would also help avoid consecutive media timeouts at the conclusions of each half. So I believe it's only in the second and fourth quarters, if I'm not mistaken, when the clock hits 2 minutes, essentially it's a timeout. Probably will be a TV timeout as well for games broadcast on TV, which I guess pretty much all are now. Neil Brown says, I think it's great for the officials and clock operators because the rules change under 2 minutes, so it's a good reminder for them. There's going to be some strategy involved from a coaching perspective. Do you take a timeout before the 2-minute warning? The 2-minute warnings are at the end of the second and fourth quarters. They will not be an additional timeout, but rather serve as fixed stopping points when television will know it can take media breaks, as I kind of expected there. So just wanted to kind of hit on those new rule changes coming to college football this upcoming season as well to wrap up this stream. Helmet-to-helmet communication, tablets on the sidelines, and 2-minute warning now going to be involved in the game. So wanted to touch on that. Markets and Moto, appreciate you, man, tuning in and chiming as well. He said they think the 2-minute warning might be a good addition. I do too. I think that it'll help, especially for, those coaches that are a bit more strategic and stuff. And I think luckily for us, Neil Brown's certainly a guy that plans down to the very fine details. So I think it's something that probably will benefit West Virginia in the long run. Definitely, I think so. And especially with the way our offense plays, they should be able to control how they want to control that final 2 minutes, whether it's they need to go up tempo because they need to score, or whether they need to control the clock, because we've seen them been able to do both of those things last season. Early part of the season kind of controlled games using the clock and wore defenses down. Then in the latter portion of the season, when the defense wasn't playing as good, injuries and whatnot came about, we saw the offense be really explosive, and we saw how good they were in 2-minute situations. They really thrived as well. So West Virginia, a team that can play at any tempo, I think the 2-minute warning certainly won't hurt us. I'm excited to see how it changes the game. It's going to be a different feel to it a little bit, I guess, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out and everything. So excited for WVU football, excited for the addition of Greg Genross there at the tight end position. I think that's really going to help things, especially when you have Cole Taylor and him there teamed up together, both 6'7" out there. Still have Traylon Davis and a really deep tight end room. Going to continue to be, a feature of this offense, obviously. And then on the basketball side, continuing to build a really great roster. Great high school addition in Jonathan Powell that I think will make an impact this year. But we'll continue to report on additions to both WVU football's roster and WVU's basketball roster, as both are built throughout this offseason, leading into what is hopefully successful 2024s for both programs. But having said that, going to wrap this one up here for our May 8th live stream on the Country Roads webcast. Appreciate everyone that tuned in here live. If you're tuned in on the playback as well, still appreciate you checking that out. Either way, you can help out by hitting that thumbs up button. Helps a ton with that YouTube algorithm. And if you're a WVU fan, be sure subscribe here to the channel. Ton of content coming in the near future for both sports. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.